Okay, I grew up in Glendale. I grew up in Georgia and then moved to Glendale and graduated from Hoover in 1957. Went to Glendale College, went to a semester at USC, and then I joined the Marines and spent 4 years in the Marines and came out of the Marines, decided to go back to Cal State LA, get a teaching credential because my best friend had done exactly that and was teaching at Burbank High School, and I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. So I joined Frank Callum at Burbank High School in 1960, actually 1965, when I was just a volunteer coach, and then 66 as a full-time teacher and coach. And then I decided once I had an opportunity, it came up to get a rental house in 1985. I decided that was a good opportunity. It was kind of a rundown place, and it took a lot of work. It took about 6 months after I bought it to rehab it to where it would be a rentable facility. So that's kind of how I got into the rental business. I just took a chance on Burbank is not going to be sleepy Burbank forever. Things will always, I was optimistic that things will always get better in Burbank. My my landlord uh, objectives was to acquire some property and to eventually pass it on to my children and my grandchildren. And it took about 20 years when I bought the first house before I actually made any profit at all on it because it was the rents were low, the mortgage was high, interest rates were ungodly in those days, and so yeah, in the long term, I had hoped it would provide a little extra on a retirement other than my state teacher's retirement pension. So that was uh, that was a secondary goal. The initial goal to buy it was just the pride of ownership of an additional property and to provide a place for somebody else to live. Yes, I have my own home, plus I have two here in Burbank and one in Glendale, and I do manage them myself. I provide I provide everything for the tenants. Everything that they require, everything that they ask for. I used to do all the work myself. When I was younger, I was quite skilled at plumbing, electrical work, irrigation, things like that, the painting. I could do it all. But now that I'm a little bit on the other end of the spectrum, I have to hire to have it done. And but I still, my wife and I, we manage it ourselves. Okay, the mortgage rates are not a problem for me now because the houses are paid off. So I really don't worry about that. It's the taxes, of course, that they go up, whatever the Prop 13 requires every year. So that's an additional expense every year. Uh, Recently, I just got on one of my rentals, and this is coming for the rest of them as well, as when the insurance premiums come due. Uh, on one of the houses I own on Pass Avenue, the homeowner's insurance, just for the homeowner's insurance, just doubled, almost doubled, went up from 1,100 to 2,000 a year. That does not include the earthquake insurance. When that kicks in, that's basically pretty much the same as the regular insurance, and so I expect an additional uh, about 100% increase in that. So the earthquake plus the homeowner's insurance on that particular unit has gone up from roughly 2,000 to 4,000 annually, and I expect the way things are going in California with insurance companies leaving on a regular basis, and you're at the mercy of whoever will write insurance for you. So I expect that to be an escalating cause. Um, Recently had some plumbing work done. I'll give you an example. Replacing a water heater is about $1,500 now, and so you have to expect those types of things to come up periodically. Uh, Now, the dilemma I have is, do I pass that on to the tenants in rent increase, or do I just absorb it with what they're already paying? So that's one of the reasons why I have some concerns about the way this issue in the city with rent control is going. Managing those costs, I just take it upon myself to pay it out of what the tenants pay. Uh, we haven't raised rent in a couple of them for like 3 years. One of them we just did raise the rent to $100 a month, which does not necessarily cover the increase in costs by any stretch of the imagination. But I have good tenants. They take care of the place. That's important. In the long term, it's better to have good tenants that want to stay and look after the place and treat it as their home, as opposed to raising the rent exorbitantly or whatever you can get away with, and have the tenants move out, and then you have to start all over again. Rent control and rent caps would have a kind of a negative effect on the way we like to operate. Uh, on the one hand, we try not to raise rents, but if there is rent control, it would force us to raise rents for the simple reason that if we don't raise it one year and then we have a big issue, it makes it impossible to raise it satisfactorily to meet the needs of maintaining the facility. And I'm opposed to rent control because I like to manage the rent control myself between me and my tenants. Okay, the issue of deep pocket landlords doesn't apply to me. I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. I try to have nice housing for the people that rent from me. I respect them. I respect what they're trying to accomplish with their lives and the way they live, and I try to meet their needs so that they don't want to leave. Okay, if rent cap is put into place by the city council in Burbank, it's going to cause people like me more problems than it's going to solve. Basically, I try to keep things up with what it is. Uh, I have I can't control what a contractor or a plumber or an electrician or whatever they're going to charge me. Uh, they're going to they're going to up their rates every year anyhow, so it doesn't really matter. The plumbers have to make a living, so if they charge $1,000 for something this year, next year it'll probably be 1,500. So how do is a mom and pop type landlord? How do I keep up with that? Basically, I either take it out of my own pocket, or I pass it on somehow or other to the renters. And the only way you can do that is through raising the rent. Okay, if I'm not able to raise the rent, it creates a major problem for me. Other than the fact that I have some resources that I could take care of things that are not exorbitant or ultra major, like like a fire or wind blowing things down, something that's not covered by insurance. Uh, you know, I want to make sure that I maintain the facility in uh, top form, and so if it takes extra money from uh, what I'm counting on for retirement and things like that, then so be it. That's what I have to do. When discussing maintenance, we had a tenant that basically lost his job, uh, quit paying the rent, and basically refused to let us have access to do anything to the property until he left. So when he finally left, he left the backyard in such a situation that it was basically unlivable. So what we did, we had to renovate it. And by the time everything was said and done with that piece of property, we were looking at about $12,000 or $13,000 worth of work to totally rehab it and get it up what we call livable space. And so anyhow, that's one example of what happens when tenants don't keep you up informed of what's going on. They let things go without our knowledge, and so when they finally do leave, then we've got a lot of work to do, and that's kind of the plight of a non-corporate mom and pop type operation. So when somebody moves, we don't have a lot of income from other sources to rehab that. So with small people like us, we just have to suck it up and straighten things out on our own. And that's not doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it's a major expense. Sometimes we've had in the past where they've asked if they can delay paying the rent. We've had that happen in the past, not often, but we have had it happen in the past. Uh, I'll tell you one thing: it's it's better to help a tenant get over a rough spot than it is to try to force them to leave and start all over again. So chances are a little help goes a long way. And if you bail them out of a rough spot, uh, you know, not only is it a charitable thing to do, but it's a good feeling that you help somebody. Yeah, rent control. How's that going to affect tenants and landlords as well? I like to think I have my own rent control. I try to keep the rents reasonable. I try not to raise them unnecessarily. Uh, of course, everybody would like to have more money and higher rents and things, but there's a happy medium there. Do you make life so hard on your tenants that they can't stay there long term? And just keep in mind when a tenant moves, you have tremendous expenses to change up the place and get it ready for a new tenant. And and let's say your rental unit stays empty for 2 months. How do you make that up? That's very difficult. So with rent control, you almost let's say it's. I think one of the proposals is 3% plus inflation would be the maximum. So let's say inflation is at right now is like 2 to 3%, and rent control in Burbank, they're talking about a maximum of 5%. 5% on today's rents is, it seems like that's a lot of money for people that are renting. Uh, it's not a lot of money for somebody that is trying to provide a property. Uh, but if you don't have turnover in your rentals and you keep the rentals at a respectable price people can afford, then you avoid that turnover rate. And that's one of the dangers of rent control. Rent control almost forces a landlord to raise the rent. You know, well, I think the way that they're portraying all landlords that lump everybody in the same category. Uh, Most mom and pop people are not gouging renters. I, I honestly believe that. Some people that I know that have one or two rentals, very small rentals, they're very respectful toward their tenants, and they don't gouge them. And so I kind of don't like being lumped into one category that fits everybody. I try to be uh, independent of what the mob uh, thinks of us, and I hope my tenants look at me as being fair with them and not being a slumlord of any sort. And I know that that's one of the things with the people that are the tenant rights thing. They don't look at everybody maybe as being a slumlord or gouging the renters, but we all kind of get lumped into the same thing, and that does bother me. Yeah, I would like the city council to have respect uh, for the small people as well as the people that, that that support campaigns and things. Uh, I think it's important that there's a mix of corporate landlords and small people because it gives you a contrast of different aspects or different avenues to managing property. I'm certainly not one that wants to uh, take everything I can get from from a tenant. Uh, I don't think that serves my needs nor their needs. I don't know. It's a tough call, but I don't like being lumped into the thing is that everybody is the same. I understand where tenants are coming from, uh, but also I understand where the landlords or the providers of the properties are coming from. So somewhere in the middle is going to be the best option. Not heavy on rent control nor heavy on uh, raising rents. So I look at other places where they do have rent control, and right now I'm thankful that I live in Burbank and I have two places in Burbank. Glendale has some type of rent control. I think the tenants' rights people are trying to get Burbank to do something like Glendale or like L.A. And heaven help us if we go like L.A. Because if you look at Burbank and you look at L.A., there's two different worlds. And I think rent control has a lot to do with it. To speak with the city council about the effect rent control would have on me, I would tell them basically, don't do it. You do not want Burbank to turn into North Hollywood, and that's one of the risks of rent control. when you start, when you have rent control, landlords have to make a profit. Uh, Even the corporate landlords have to make a profit. But with rent control, it also, in the long term, causes people not to maintain their properties as they would if they didn't have the rent control. Oh, alternatives to rent control that the city should consider. I think the market will dictate that. What are people willing to pay, and what are you willing to accept as a landlord? I think that's the fairest way that I see to look at it. Yeah, small houses, rent control may eventually, with the tremendous increase, especially in taxes and insurance, it would make it very difficult for small people to stay in the business. And I think small landlords like me are kind of maybe the backbone of the community. We're established in the community. We're members of the community. We don't come from outside trying to make a living off the backs of the good people of Burbank. And if you run us out and corporate people take over, it has the opposite effect of, of maybe what this community wants to be.